2, 1, let's jam.
And boom! What's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome back, goddamn, to another edition of Tell Me a Joke, the guy under chasing a dream. I'm your host, Maniacal, Menace, Kyle Smith. See the whole thing like a pimp named Slickback. And today, I have the watchful eye, the onlooker, the nice guy with the camera, Hunter himself. How you doing, Hunter?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm great, man. I made it down here. I made it down here safely in this sick ass weather that they got down here, man.
It's pretty bad.
This weather is disgusting. Oh my god. And I thought it'd be colder, but I'm glad it's not as cold. You know, as we sit out here with the horns honking in good old City Park. Good old City Park. It's not too bad. It's still a beautiful sight, even though it's gloomy. But you know, so Hunter, your what you do is, if you'd like to explain to people what you do.
Yeah, so I work on movies and TV shows and commercials. I'm a camera operator, camera assistant, lighting technician, and then I have a lot of niche positions, like an underwater camera operator. We do a lot of product stuff, and we get to have fun with it.
Aha. Like, so is that has been your passion since you was a child?
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker after seeing the greatest Christmas movie of all time.
A Christmas Story?
No, it's Die Hard.
Okay.
So I was like 5 years old, and I'm watching TV with my dad around Christmas, and John McClane drops Hans Gruber off of Nakatomi Plaza, and I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. So I started learning about film and took a break, got into music for a little bit, got it back out of music, back into film, and have been pursuing it ever since I was like 5.
Oh, Jesus, that's quite some time. Doing what with music when you got into music?
My aunt's an opera singer, so she taught me piano, and then I learned guitar after that.
Yeah, it's just acoustic, bass,
Electric.
Electric.
Yeah.
Now, do you know how to play the bass? Is it that different?
It's not really. I mean, the number of strings and the way you play it are the kind of big differences. Yeah.
I have a bass myself. I told myself I was going to teach myself how to play it. I was going to YouTube it, but it's more difficult than I thought. You know, it's like I need the time and the hours, and I don't have that.
Once you build up those finger calluses, it gets so much easier.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's what I need. I need the calluses on the fingers. Okay. I'm gonna practice that. So basically, you just gotta practice frets and repetition of certain.
I mean,
patterns.
Like when I first started, I was in tremendous pain every time I'd leave a lesson, just because my fingers were so like not really frail, but they were kind of tender.
Yeah.
And once I was playing for a year, and I was still in school, so it wasn't like I was making movies or anything, but. At the time, I'd run around with my friends at school, and then I'd go practice guitar. And once I got the calluses on my fingers created, then I was able to learn at a much better rate because I wasn't in as much pain, and I could really focus on creating the music.
Man, I wouldn't have thought of that. Like I have a friend, he's Haitian, and he plays the guitar, and I've always felt his fingertips, and I was like, oh man, like these fingertips are real rough. Either that or you got real good grip. I know I wasn't discerning between the two, but
you don't necessarily need to play guitar to build up those calluses. Like I've got calluses on my fingers right now, but I've just been doing movie stuff for a long time.
What is your favorite camera to work with?
Favorite camera to work with? The next one. I've worked with just about everything on the planet, and they are absolutely phenomenal to work with. But there gets to be a point where you're just like, just bring on the next job.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. What? So, like, are you good with drones?
I actually just bought a drone like 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago.
No, I bought
game.
I bought a drone like 8 years ago, and I flew it and crashed it, and then flew it and crashed it, and you know it was like a $200 drone.
Oh Jesus!
But we were doing a shoot for a news station in the UK recently, and they needed some drone work done, and it was a last minute thing, so we didn't have time to get all the details in order. So I called a buddy and I borrowed his drone and flew it, and the footage came out great. And then I found one on sale, went and bought it like 2 hours ago, about 50 feet from where we're sitting right now.
What do you like to shoot most?
I'm a huge fan of action movies.
Yeah.
Car chases, shootouts.
Yeah.
Anything that's big. But in the past, so I've been doing this for like 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in January.
You got them hours in there.
When I was young, all I wanted to do was action movies and shootouts and car chases. And when you're 15, you know, a car chase is the coolest thing you can possibly do.
That is fun.
But nowadays, I'm looking for much more like nuanced material, trying to find ways to tell stories with eye movements and you know, facial reactions rather than expositional dialogue and explosions.
Oh, kind of like a Jim Carrey mask situation. Or not as silly.
Kind of, but I don't know if that'd be the example I would use. There's a lot of nuanced performances in TV shows and movies nowadays. Anything in the past, like 8 years, has been filled with more of like muted performances that tell more about the character than going over the top. You know?
Oh, okay. So that's fun. What would you say is so when it comes to you watching or you shooting action films, what movies do you prefer to watch? Are they still action? Is it like, have you seen the newest Black Panther? Since you do shoot a lot of films, is that something that you don't do often? Is go to the movies just because you're like, no, they didn't shoot that right.
Movies are great, but this is gonna get me in so much trouble. I am not a Marvel fan.
Oh no.
I think they're too over the top. When I like an action movie, I like it because there's an air of realism to it.
Yeah.
You know? It was one of those things that was like, if I can make a cool action movie with moderate-sized explosions, not Michael Bay explosions, but like, you know, when we were doing Synchronic and we had all those mortar shells going off around the actors as we're running through the battlefield, which Synchronic on Netflix, phenomenal film. It felt real. I mean, it was a sci-fi thriller story, but there was such a level of realism that the Marvel films just don't have. I'm tired of watching everyone gang up to fight a blue sky beam. It's overplayed, and
and the truth comes out. Hey, I feel that. It's not for everybody. Some people are still confused by it. My wife, she's like, okay, sure. If it's not Black Panther, I don't care. And it's like, and she's like, just a bunch of guys in tights just running around.
But they're not even together. I mean, it's so digitally created that, I mean, photos of the behind the scenes leak, and it's ScarJo, and she's just up against a green screen.
Yeah.
And then the next day they film Chris Evans against the same green screen.
You rather it be all together and in the action.
If you're gonna do a giant airport fight scene, just rent out an airport and shoot a giant fight scene like Nolan did for Tenet.
That's so he rented out a whole airport for that.
Bought a plane to crash into a building.
Oh Jesus.
And I mean, it's Disney. They have the money to do these giant, rent out a small airport, put a couple planes there, and do that big scene.
Now, what does it take to do a big scene like that?
So one of the
And also on top of that, how many takes can you do like that?
so when you're slating a scene, so the clapboard, we put a bunch of information on it. Every new setup of the camera or new lens or new lighting change adds a new letter. So it starts with, scene 14 and then goes to 14 alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the end of the alphabet, you reset and it becomes AA, B, AC, AD. So the first feature I ever worked on, originally it was called Juggernaut. It was back in 2016, 2015. It's been renamed about 3 times now. I don't actually know what the current title is. But we spent a week shooting the big heist towards the middle of the film.
Yeah.
And we went through the alphabet 3 times.
Oh, Jesus.
In one scene number. Because we had 7 or 8 characters. We had a bunch of B-roll. We had... every single character had to have an over the shoulder, and it had, we had 15, 20 angles of every fight scene. There was like 6 fights in that heist. There was a lot of material, but the end result was worth it.
Yeah.
And, we spent a week on it. It's probably 8 minutes in the final film.
Oh, Lord.
But it's so good that it was worth a week of our time.
Yeah.
How
does that feel, having to do things repetitively like that? When it comes to does it bore you?
So when I was looking for my footing in the film industry, I couldn't decide what I wanted to be. And I worked on lighting, I worked on camera, I worked sound, I did some editing. Eventually I realized that editing is just too repetitive. It's the same 8 keystrokes over and over and over again, and that just gets to me. The beauty of camera work is every shot and every scene and every take is different, and there's this level of I don't know what's going to happen. There was this moment. I was working on a comedy a couple years ago, and we decided that every letter on the slate, because you have to say a word, we were going to make it funny. And it was like a sex comedy. So every single word was a comedy. So scene 8 assholes, take 1.
Yeah.
Scene 8 buttholes, take 2. And there's this story that I tell that I sent somebody to the camera truck to find something that I needed for the shot. And after a few minutes of waiting, we realized we needed it. So we said, screw it, let's just go shoot the shot.
Yeah.
So it was scene 8. Charlie, or the letter C, was up on the slate. So I go slate the shot. Scene 8 clitoris, take 1, mark. And then the person comes back into the room and they blurt out, "I found it." Oh my God. Everyone on the set was dying. I mean, the actors, we had to cut after 5 minutes because we were not going to stop.
Yeah. That's
a couple
hilarious.
people fell out of their chairs. It was a great moment that, that doesn't happen when you're editing. That doesn't happen in the other industry.
No, you actually get to be in the actual moments.
So doing something over and over again, it's beautiful because it's different.
Yeah.
But also the same.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. That's like a little mantra. So what movies or what things have you all worked on? Saying you've been doing this for 10 years. What is your rap sheet?
So I have been playing a game of streaming bingo.
Okay.
I put every streaming service on this bingo card, and the only one left is Apple TV Plus. So I've worked for Disney, I've worked for Hulu, I've worked for Netflix, Lifetime, Blumhouse, A24, and just about everybody else under the sun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So what movies have you worked on?
So on Netflix, there are 3 films that I worked on and 1 film that I rented gear to. Synchronic, starring Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan. Eli.
I think I did see that one.
What?
Eli? Okay.
Eli was a Paramount film. And the third one was called Burning Cane. Now, I rented gear to their production. Philip, the director, and I went to Noka together. And he needed stuff, and I had it. So I, loaned or rented stuff to him.
Yeah.
And that's the film that won Best Picture at Tribeca, Best Young Filmmaker. He was like 19 when he won that award.
Oh, shit.
And then the film is now on Netflix.
Oh, that's dope.
On Amazon, there was this one film that's honestly probably in the top 5 that I've worked on called We All Think We're Special. It's about these two guys and they're detoxing from alcoholism. But there's so much character development, and it's one of those things where it's a lot of show, don't tell.
Yeah.
We got to do underwater camera operating. We got to do paintball fights. We got to do just an absurd amount of interesting footage within one location. And that was the other thing, is the entire film takes place in this one house and the surrounding area. So there's no like, oh, we went to the gas station and bought groceries. It's literally all in the house, in the woods, on the river beach, and driving around.
Oh, that sounds like
it was really interesting to know, and I've seen it before, that you can tell an entire story in one location.
Yeah.
There's a movie on Hulu called It's a Disaster. That the whole premise of the film is it's a couple's brunch, and then a dirty bomb goes off downtown.
Oh, shit.
And they're stuck in there. And it truly like unravels the psychosis of the mind.
Yeah.
And watching like each character succumb to their primal urges in the inevitability of their deaths.
Yeah.
So we all think we're special was really fun because we got to experiment with those sort of things, and alcoholism was a new sort of thing. That January of 2018, so I was 21. So alcohol was pretty new to me at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, not entirely so, but it was one of those things where I'm like, this is the real dark side of drinking too much.
Oh, and so looking at that through the camera, how did that make you feel?
It was one of those experiences where I was like, I'm gonna be really careful because I don't want to be put in this situation.
Yeah.
And it was one of those like scared straight sort of things, but not intentionally. Yeah. Because
it's still a film that you shoot.
Yeah, and there was this one night where we were filming in the pool. So it's me and the director of photography. I'm the focus puller. But we're in wetsuits. We're in the water, and it's 50 degrees out in the air. The water is even worse. So Aaron, the DP, and I are bouncing between the pool, the hot tub, the showers, and drinking coffee and hot chocolate. And there was a certain point where I'm like, do you want to have a drink to just keep our body temps up?
Yeah.
So I called a producer over and sent them into the house, and they brought us a bottle of tequila, and me and Aaron were drinking tequila in the pool just to keep our body temps up.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I learned that day that I can drink and still work pretty effectively.
No shaky hand, huh?
No.
Ah.
I mean, there's studies that say that having, a drink or two while you're a focus puller can improve your focus pulling because you're less stressed, you're less in your head, and you can focus on things better than when you're like, oh my God, I gotta get this.
And a focus puller is basically somebody that manually pulls the focus, pulls the camera to focus.
Yeah, when an actor walks towards or away from the camera, I spin a wheel that spins a glass element inside the lens that changes the focus. So when you're watching a film and you see an actor walk towards the camera, when they stay in focus, it's because someone like me is spinning a wheel and doing their job.
What camera the next one, but what So you have your own equipment that you rent out.
Yes.
What is the preferred equipment that you like to use?
For my own productions, I like Sony cameras. Mm-hmm. I have 8 of them because we do a lot of content where we need multiple cameras for a shoot.
Yeah.
When I'm doing a big movie, I like to rent a camera, like an Arri or a Red or a Panavision DXL, or a Sony Venice. It really depends on what the film calls for. Right now, we're filming a movie with Tommy Wiseau, who did The Room.
Oh, okay.
And we're shooting on an Alexa Mini LF, or as I like to call it, a MILF.
That's fun.
But we use the same lenses that he used on the movie The Room for this film that we're currently doing.
Right.
So everything has its own characteristics, and knowing what will work best for your post delivery, for your editorial, for, up until recently, Arri didn't really have a camera that was Netflix original content approved.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do something that was Netflix approved, you needed to shoot on Red, Canon, Panavision, Sony, or someone else. Now Arri has cameras that are approvable by Netflix. So it really
They
opened
only
up.
want certain cameras to be filmed on there, to be used on their platform.
It was based on resolution and like megabits per second file sizes.
Ooh,
and
picky Netflix.
Do it.
I said, ooh, picky Netflix.
They've had this list out for like 7 years, and people still misunderstand it. Anything that you shoot can go on Netflix.
Yeah.
There are people that shoot films on Canon T2Is, which I bought one in 2010. That's when that camera came out.
Yeah.
There is content on Netflix that was shot on those cameras. But for it to be a Netflix approved production, so like a Netflix original, it has to be shot on a camera on their approved list.
Oh,
but what people don't realize is if you're doing a Netflix approved production, they're more times than not footing the bill for production. So you can basically get whatever camera and lens package is deemed necessary to do.
Huh. That makes sense. Yeah, since they're giving them money anyway, might as well just follow their guidelines.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the cameras that they want. Does a different camera style make it difficult to use, or is everything just about the same, just depending on what quality you want from it?
Everybody makes their own look. So an Arri camera is going to look different from a Red camera, different from a Sony, different from a Canon. But a lot of it is due to the lenses. Cook X-Tall Expresses, which we used earlier this year. It's an anamorphic, very wide lens that has those sort of flares when you see a light switch. They have a completely different look from, a Zeiss Compact Prime, for example. So you pick a camera, you pick your lenses, you pick your filtration.
After these messages, we'll be right back. And now, back to the show.
There we go. We're back at it. We're okay. So looks and qualities. You was talking about how the Arri camera has a different look compared to.
So every camera company makes their own sensor, and every sensor has a slightly different look about like the details and the highlights and the shadows, and then like green shift versus pink. All these things come together to create the look of a film. And then you take your lenses and you have 60 different lens manufacturers and lenses dating back to like the 1920s that you can use on modern motion pictures. And then you take it a step further and you add filtration with like star filters or softening filters or contrast filters. All these things just help to solidify the look of the film that hopefully matches the tone of the project and the story being told.
Now, we've all witnessed the process of the pixels getting higher from like HD to 1080 to 4K to 8K. So, like, how has that process been for you as like the times,
So
get better?
Back in 2008, when the first Red camera was announced, and they were like, we have 4K processed raw data, everyone started losing their minds because the next best thing was the Alexa Classic, which did 2K.
Yeah.
So half the pixels of this new Red camera. But for a long time, I was against 4K just because the file sizes were gigantic. Most computers at the time, if you were like a low budget editor or, camera person, you needed, a $10,000 computer just to deal with that footage.
Oh, Lord.
And the sizes haven't gotten smaller and the processing has gotten a lot better, but, people are I've done films in 8K. Mm-hmm. There's a Blackmagic camera that shoots 12K now.
Gee.
It's a couple years ago when I was thinking about what camera I wanted to buy, the question came up, do I want to buy a brand new Red camera that does 6K, or do I want a used Arri camera that does 2K? And some people are, they have this dick measuring contest of like, we're going to shoot in 8K because it's the best resolution. And I'm like, give me a good story and a decent sensor, which for me at the time, I would always pick Arri over Red because I liked the look of Arri cameras. And, I like to push these cameras to the limits of their abilities, and it was much harder for me to push Arri to the point where it wasn't usable, where it was easier to push Red, like night scenes, darkness, very quiet scenes, because the Reds were notorious for just unbelievable fan noises.
Oh, really?
There was there were jokes made about shooting on physical film, which is absurdly noisy because you've got
like the reel
yes,
type of film.
You've got celluloids that are moving 24 per second going through this image plane, and that's quieter than some of the first Reds.
Oh,
It was just one of those things that was like, if you wanted to do a very quiet, nuanced scene, you had to film from outside. And that was a problem.
Yeah. So just so all of the background noise wouldn't pick up on the camera. That's why. So what does that look like? The transition? How much clearer is 12K than 4K and 8K? Like, what are you seeing now compared to what you were seeing before?
So everybody's always talking about, I have a 4K screen on my phone. The human eye can't detect pixels that closely. For you to get a true and proper visualization of 4K, you need to have a 55-inch TV or larger. So for them to say we have 4K pixels in our phones means nothing. 4K camera, great. I'll watch every single thing I ever film on it on a 55-inch TV, and it'll actually make sense. So the other thing is, if you're watching the news, you're watching 720p footage. So 720 is HD.
Okay.
Then you have full HD. That's 1920 by 1080.
Okay.
That's what we've been shooting in for 20 years at this point.
Right.
The first digital cameras, they'd start shooting, HD, and that was a big thing. The only thing that actually streams in 4K is Netflix and Hulu and these other streamers. But you have to have the network to handle 4K. a 4K player and a 4K TV. And I have a 4K TV and I have a 4K player, but I don't have the internet infrastructure to justify 4K video. So I save money and don't pay for the 4K Netflix job. I do HD, if even that. And it goes, you know, I still have stuttering issues.
So what are you getting? Just a more crisper picture?
It's not really about the crispness, because if you put a vintage lens on a brand new camera, it's not going to be crisp. The beauty of high pixel ratios is more for the editorial side of things. So if you're doing a film with a lot of visual effects, like a Marvel movie, those extra pixels, the double the pixel count of 4K to 8K, you have so much more ability to paint realistic images and stabilize the footage and crop in. I was talking to one of the lead editors on Mr. Robot a couple years ago, and they shot in 8K on that show, but because it was on cable, it was being pipelined down to HD or full HD. Now, they used the 8K sensor so that they could do all of those reframings. And I don't remember the guy's name. It was Peter. He was saying that they could pull 3 or 4 different shots out of one image because of how large the sensor was and how small the deliverable was. Because, I mean, even if you shoot in 8K, you're still delivering in 4K or less. It's just how it is. There's a movie I worked on in Kentucky with 5 Academy Award winning actors. 2 of them have passed on. But we shot in 5K on a red Gemini. And I bought the movie on iTunes, and I looked at the specs on it. The iTunes deliverable was HD. Now, it might have been because I didn't buy the 4K, but what I was watching on my computer and my TV was HD out of what was originally shot in 5K.
I'm in my head, I just think about it. I'm like, you can really tell a difference when it comes to especially certain games that you play, when the quality is much crisper. But most of the times I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to see all the features. Like, now that you can see people's features and like the quality of it, it's like I don't think I want to see that well.
And that's part of the reason why I was so adamantly against, you know, the pixel dick measuring contest, because more pixels doesn't mean better picture. And at the time, and I probably still to this day, I haven't used the newest red cameras, but the Airy cameras were better and softer on skin tones than anything else. And, you know, it's probably because they've been around since 1932, making cameras and lenses and lights.
What do you think about these phone cameras?
Like
iPhone?
film?
No. Phone. Just like
phone cameras.
Phone cameras. The cameras on the phones, like, because with each phone that starts to come out, they get better and better. Like, because you know, you're a big film guy. Like, you look through actual, like, real good lenses. But what you think about these phone cameras and then how they take pictures?
It's one of those weird debates where I've always said that you can put any camera in my hand and you give me the budget to get decent lighting and I will make a pretty picture. I've seen beautiful films shot on iPhones. I've seen terrible films shot on $100,000 red packages. It's not about the camera. It's about the story the lighting, and the sound.
You've said that. That's so many times. I like that. I like that. It's about the story. It's just like rapping. It's most of the time it's usually not about the rapper because they suck. It's all about the producer who making the beat. It's like, well,
that's why I don't like Marvel, because we're always fighting a blue sky beam. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Iron Man 1 and 2, I mean, at least Iron Man 1, solid film, no blue sky beam. It was a nuanced, well-told story that launched one of the largest franchises ever.
I do enjoy a good Iron Man. That made me fall in love with Robert Downey Jr. And then Tropic Thunder came out. And I was like, aha, you are the man.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Good times. What about, what is how do you feel about silly movies like that? Like, how many silly movies have you worked on like that? Or is it all just serious that comes down the pipeline?
I've worked on a fair number of comedies, but for me, it's not about the film. It's about the experience of working with the people on set. I get these calls and people are like, will you hire me again? I'm like, well, you're great, but you're not fun to work with. Or you have stuff to learn, but we had a blast working together. We shot the shit. We were having work beers at the end of the day. Like, we were chill. And I will always pick someone who is competent but is more pleasant to be around than someone who's the best but the absolute worst to deal with. Because a good person will make a set experience. A bad person will ruin it.
Oh, shit. So you want pretty much a good energy to be around when you're shooting and such.
It's important.
Yeah. Yeah. So behind the magic, when it comes to shooting comedy like that, how many takes is really happening? And is it funny the 15th time?
If you have to do 15 takes of a comedy shot, you're not doing something right. You're doing something wrong.
Is it usually one hit, one go? Like,
there's a few different schools of thought when shooting comedies. Mine is I shoot on as many cameras as I can effectively get in the scene and try to get it in 2 takes. 2 scripted takes, because usually the writers that I work with are phenomenal about coming up with funny material that's not just like bottom of the barrel humor.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is I like nuanced humor. I don't want to look at a slapstick comedy anymore. It's not 1915.
Tell me about
I was
it.
talking about this last night at an event. In the Edgar Wright movie At World's End came out, and it's about it's the third part of the Cornetto trilogy, and it's about a group of friends that come together to complete the Miracle Mile, which was 12 pubs that they had to visit in one night.
That was with Sean from Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, I enjoyed that movie.
Yes. That movie came out the same weekend that Grown Ups 2 came out.
Yeah.
Grown Ups 2 made $80 million its opening weekend.
I also enjoyed
At World's
that movie
End
as
made
well.
$10 million. So calling it lazy is wrong, because it wasn't a lazy film, but that sort of comedy outperformed what, to me, arguably is a better film.
It outperformed it.
So, they made more in the box office by $70 million that weekend.
So did you enjoy the film yourself?
I loved A World's End. I thought, nothing against Adam Sandler, but I'm just not a huge fan of his comedies. And I haven't taken the time to watch his dramas. So, it's just one of those things.
He is something different when it comes to drama. It's like, oh, okay, you really got into it. And that's really good. Like, Uncut Gems is something that everybody talks about. And it's like, hey, that's really good that you did this. Like, it's very believable and such. Like, you really feel it. But, I watch him and I'm like, good, stick to doing this, because stand-up is not your thing.
Well, when I was 10, his movies were great. But as you
mature, get older, it's like you didn't grow older with us. Like, you're still doing this for 10-year-olds.
My friends, we talk about video gaming nowadays, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just bought Halo Infinite or whatever big new shooters out," and I'm like, I stopped gaming like a long time ago. I had to go buy a PS4 so that I could play The Last of Us Part 2. And
such a beautiful game.
At this point, I will get on a game and play the campaign and beat it in a day or two just for the stress release.
Yeah.
Like, I went and popped in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood the other day. And literally within 8 hours, I had completed the campaign and was just running around in Vienna. I played the entire Ezio.
Such a stress relief.
Yeah, played the entire Ezio trilogy in like 3 days, because that was the pinnacle of Assassin's Creed, was those games. Mm-hmm. And then they tried to make it too big, to please everybody, and I
had to stop.
The tower fell.
I was like, y'all gonna keep doing this? This is gonna be the same thing. All right, I'm out.
I bought Valhalla, and
Lord.
I tried to enjoy it because Vikings was a great concept.
Yeah,
but it didn't do it.
They had the one where it was on the slave ships, Black Flag.
Yep,
yeah,
try
to get another culture in there. It's like, oh, you almost got me, you motherfucker. Hey, you almost got me. But no, I was out.
Now they've got one feudal Japan, which promises to be really interesting.
Yeah,
I hope it is. But
it ain't no Ghost of Tsushima.
I will go keep playing Sly Cooper and freaking LA Noire and Saints Row, because they're nice, chill games that remind me of my childhood. My biggest playlist right now is called When We Were Young, and it's My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy and All American Rejects and Green Day and Bowling for Soup. It brings me back to my grungy emo phase when I was young.
That's my nostalgic fit. Like, they continued on with the God of Wars, and I'm one of those. I like to play long adventure games. Like, if I get a Call of Duty, I just play the campaign. I can't do online anymore. I don't want to. There's too much happening. Yeah, I don't care about all the DLCs and shit.
I will never be as good as the people that spend their entire days doing this, and that's fine with me. But they just try to rub it in. I'll probably get a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2, 1-to-3 KD ratio, and I'll be happy with that. And we get into the lobby, and people are like, "Oh, how did you only get 3 kills? How is your KD so bad?" I'm like, "Because I don't care.
I don't.
I have a life. I go out and hang out with people.
I go have fun. I go enjoy other people's presence, which is it's always nice to be in the presence of another person, just to feel the energy of somebody else besides the radiation that this TV gives off.
I like adventure games. I have been getting more into reading recently. I will keep working on film because that's what is fun. If I just sat in front of the TV all day like I used to when Halo Reach came out or Brotherhood or Black Ops 1, I wouldn't be the person that I am.
Yeah.
And it was great when I did that, but at some point you got to grow up.
Yeah, we've been knowing you for quite some time. Yeah, Hunter. You were one of the people that actually first shoot one of a special or a comedy show that I was a part of, like a big production. That was the first time that I was ever part of a big production like that, and you were one of the guys behind the camera. It was
I was a team lead on that.
oh wow, oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's dope. Like, how many cameras did they have? Did they have out there?
I think it was 7 or 8. That seems about right.
That is so much, and it felt good to just be like, oh, this is what this is like. Usually, I don't know if it's for most comedy specials. Is it that many cameras usually?
For something like a Netflix special, you'll usually get that many. Like Dragon's Den, where we met, it probably like 1, if that.
Yeah.
Because they, it's kind of hard to pay 8 camera operators when your entire audience is 20 people.
Yeah.
But like you referenced the Bo Burnham specials on Netflix, or Bert the Machine. They've got 6 cameras and a crane and all these other things that are just essential to really sell you in the experience, because if you're staring at the same shot for too long, you're getting bored.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's cool, but like, the Taylor Swift Reputation tour video on Netflix has 30 cameras. And at that point, I had done a bunch of things that were 8 cameras. Like, I hadn't worked with the Revivalists then, but I've done 8 camera streams for them since.
Yeah.
And we've worked, plays and musicals and, opera shows where we just drop that many cameras in because we have the ability, and it really sells the product as this super professional setup when every camera setup is like $2,000, $3,000 in total.
How big is a crew usually for an 8 camera setup?
So the last live stream that I was like the head of was June of 2021. The Revivalists were playing on Rolling Stone magazine's Twitch page. We had 8 cameras running. I had 2 camera operators, one of them on a gimbal running around getting the whole band, and then one of them shooting David, the lead singer. The 3 of us set all the cameras, ran all the cables, and hooked us up to the network. We had one sound person, Mac, that the band brought, and I was the engineer, so I was handling the stream and cutting from camera to camera so that the audience who was watching wasn't watching the same thing. So that's the smallest scale, is 3 people. We did that at Preservation Hall. But when we did one for N Minor, which Phil, one of the guys from Pantera, was his new band, we had 5 operators, 4 assistant cameras, 2 switcher techs, a producer, 2 sound engineers, and a lighting person.
Ooh.
But they had the budget for it.
Yeah.
It was justified. I didn't need 8 operators on that live stream because it was a small space and nobody was moving, so we, set cameras and let them run. That was just the workflow.
That's years of experience right there. Being able to put it down when you need to. Man.
And when they have the budget, we go big.
Going big is always fun. So this is what you imagined as a child, as a 5-year-old boy looking at the greatest Christmas movie ever. This is how you imagine it be going. You thought it'd be a little bit different.
I didn't really know what the internet was back when I was 5.
Yeah, it's wild though.
So I didn't think anyone had the idea of live streaming, but no. So I saw Die Hard. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be a stunt double.
You wanted to stunt double?
That was the original plan. Was I was going to be a stunt double.
It's a very drastic change from being behind the camera.
But I never had the physical endurance or the body type to be a stunt double.
Yeah.
and then I was watching behind the scenes of one of the Jason Bourne movies.
Oh.
And the camera operator jumps through the window that Matt Damon jumps through. There's a scene in one of the Bourne films, I think it's the second one, where they're running on the rooftop and then they jump through the window, and the camera operator is on a harness and jumps right after him and goes through the window.
What?
And if you watch the film, you'll see the shot and you'll be like, that's how they did it. So I saw that shot and I realized I want to be a camera operator.
Close enough
Because I
to...
get to do the same thing the stunt guys do, but I can live my life and not, wear 20 pounds of makeup every day and do the same thing. And, it's hard to break in as an operator. So I started as a utility and an assistant and worked my way up. And now I'm DPing films.
DPing films. That's what's up. Like, from the time that you put in to now, like, it's a lot to learn. It's a lot to take in. Did you graduate for this?
I did 2 years of film training at NOCA. And then I graduated and started working. A lot of conferences, a lot of no-budget short films. I wouldn't make a penny. And I'd drive out there and provide gear and, all of these things. Just kept doing it, putting my name out there. And then eventually I started booking decent-sized shorts that, would have the budget to give me some money. And then shorts turned into TV pilots turned into features, and now I do 8-10 features a year.
The step ups. That's like you going to your open mic phase, getting it in.
We all start from the bottom, unless you have your leg up and can.
Not everybody gets that leg
walk you
up
through it, and I've made the mistake of, personally, I think I jumped up too quickly. There were times where I was just not knowledgeable enough about what I was doing, and probably burned bridges. Actually, not probably. Definitely burned bridges. And, found out years later that they wouldn't hire me again because, of XYZ mistake that I made because I didn't know better. And it's not on them. At that point, they thought that I knew what I needed. And I thought I did too. And there was a difference in the level of knowledge that had to be there.
It's a learning process.
So I also made that mistake of a couple of the people that I work with. I brought them up too quickly, and they burned themselves out just because they didn't know what they needed. So I've had to be really careful about how quickly I'll bring someone from the low level indie or a short film all the way up to a feature.
So low level is indie, is more like independent films?
Well, I mean, independent films are anything that's not backed by a major studio.
That's kind of... All right. You see a hierarchy there. Like, that's something that comics were about. Well, I don't think about it. Well, I think about it now, but, I haven't had to deal with it yet, just because the status that I'm at. But bringing somebody that you think is ready but really isn't ready just because they've only been doing it for so long. But I've seen people get tagged along and they've only been doing it for so long thinking that, oh yeah, this person's going to be ready for what it is. And it just, I see them try to shoot up to, where they think they should be at, but in their mind, they're, when you see it from the outside, it's like, you're not there. You're definitely not there yet. You're definitely not there in the position that you're being put in right now. Lucky for you. Nice. Kudos that you got here. But this was terrible.
So to sort of further that, what we're going to see in the next couple of years is comedians that have become massively successful through TikTok that haven't worked their way up from open mic nights with 2 people in the bar barely listening.
Right.
And they build up this massive group, and then they go on tour. And they do like a, East Coast, West Coast tour, whatever. And they just crash and burn because they jumped from nothing to something.
Mm-hmm.
And, the beauty of TikTok is it's global. The downside of TikTok is that it's global.
Right.
You're not going to get people flying in to go see your shows from China.
No.
So you might have 100,000 fans, but you might only get 20 people that go to your show, even if they book you a Mahalia Jackson theater-sized venue.
To see you do something that, you can't retake this.
Yeah.
You got to give it to me on spot. There's no redos for this.
And I don't think people realize that yet because they're putting so much emphasis into like these content creators that yes, create great content, but they look at purely the numbers and they say, this artist or this comedian, they have 100,000 TikTok followers. And, a bunch of them are bots and a bunch of people just didn't unfollow and accounts are, vanished and this, that, and the other. But just because you have 100,000 followers doesn't mean you're going to get 100,000 viewers to your material.
Right.
And I'm kind of waiting for the day that people realize that.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for the crash and burn.
Right? Not that I want it to happen, but it's
you just kind
sort
of
of
feel
an
the
inevitability.
inevitable. Yeah, and it's like, all right. All right, you go ahead. Eventually it's going to come. Everything comes to a head and it starts going downhill. Shit, you see where MySpace is at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this Black Planet was a thing too. Like, they all gone now. It's like, shit. I don't really hear too much about Craigslist neither. It's still a thing out there, but there ain't no more Craigslist killers. So, like, what are we doing now? YouTube is riding strong, but it's only going to be a few that's going to withstand the test of time.
I read this statistic a couple of years ago. In a single day, enough content is uploaded to YouTube that if one person were to watch just one day's material, it would take them their entire lives and then some.
Oh, Jesus.
Every day. So since YouTube's creation in, 2003, they've uploaded millions of years worth of content.
So much that we make shows out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So much.
And
shit
now
doesn't
that
repeat.
YouTube Reels are a thing, people are going to start posting short-form TikTok-style content.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if Elon is going to bring back Vine.
Really?
Because Vine got bought up by Twitter, and they shut it down because at the time, short-form content was not the future.
And look
But with
at
the
that.
massive success of TikTok, revitalizing and revamping Instagram and Facebook and YouTube to create shorts, I'm wondering if Vine is going to make a resurgence, and hopefully that is how Elon's going to pay for his massive Twitter buyout.
It's got to be the monsters that take over these blockbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Something's gonna end something, and something's gonna thrive from it. We'll see. That's wild. You think Vine gonna come back? Hey man, things have gotten shorter and shorter, and it makes you worried about, man, what about the long form? Like, you got to keep somebody's attention for more than 30 seconds to a minute now. They're giving you a minute 30 now on Instagram. It's like,
We got 10 minutes on TikTok. So in my time at Noka, to pass my second year, we had to submit a film to festivals. That was part of the course requirement. Now, I'd made films that I was proud of at that point, so I easily surpassed that. I'd submit a film to 10 festivals, and 6 rejections, 2 we'll think about, and 1 yes, we're gonna play it. The first film I ever made at Noka, or the first big class project we did, played at a short film festival in Slovenia.
Oh, nice.
And they wanted me to go do a Q&A about it. And I looked into tickets, and it was like $8,000 to
Jesus.
fly out for the weekend. It just wasn't worth it. But
Wish you could have Skyped in back then, huh?
Zoom for the win. No, so there was me and a classmate. We'd like spam through the film freeway, which is where we were uploading the films to, and we found one that was like the Vine challenge, and we had to make a compelling short film in 7 seconds. So I made a black screen white title card that says, if this was any longer than 7 seconds, your brain would fill in the gap and create content in your own imagination. No sound, literally just fade in that title card, fade out. I hit export, I uploaded it, it premiered at that festival. I made that in like 3 minutes.
Artistry.
And it played in a festival wherever
So simple
that
and
festival
powerful.
was. Yeah.
Come on now. That's dope.
I mean, it was a psychological tendency.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you close your eyes for 7 seconds, you will think of something to fill in where your mind is realizing that something's not happening properly.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Shit,
Dumb as hell, but you know, it played at that festival.
Man, that's intelligent as hell. I appreciate that. I like where that goes, because I did a whole lot of that driving down here from Texas today. It's like, I just drift off and be like, and then think of something else, because not too long after that blankness, something else pops in my head, and it's like, okay, I can't just not think of anything for too long before something else pops up in there.
And it can be really dangerous when you're driving and those sort of things happen.
Yeah, I know. I do have a tendency to daydream, which is where I go all the time. It's how I think about good things. There's so many things that I thought about on the way down here. I wrote it all down. Not while driving, but, you know, in my mind, I wrote it down. I thought about some great shit. I did. I got some good things. It's like in the shower. It's the best time to think for me, you know. So driving, I get to go ahead and escape for a minute. I still watch the road, but sometimes the road watches me as I watch it. And tunnel vision is the thing.
It's the beauty of carrying an audio recorder everywhere you go. When you get a random thought, you just hit record.
All my audio recorders went kaput on me. I had a Zoom at one point, and I don't know what's going on with them. How do you just eat batteries like that? They just be eating up my batteries, and I don't get it.
It's from phantom power. It's running 48 volts to every microphone that you have plugged in. And I'm looking at your recorder right now. You've got 4 channels armed, which means you're passing 48 volts to all 4 of those channels. Even though neither of these microphones need 48 volts. So you could, in theory, turn that off and save excess battery life.
What would I record into then?
That recorder. You're just turning off a setting that is providing power. That's why none of us really use AA batteries for recorders, just because they get eaten alive by the 48 volt that some microphones require.
That is a good thing to know. Now I know that. I'm gonna definitely get a little backup charger. Like we could have mentioned this in the beginning. We would have went through all this trouble.
There's no trouble at all.
This is good knowledge to know. Now I know, and shit, no one's half the battle. G.I. Joe. But man, this has been a good time, dude. Thank you. That's a lot of knowledge. I'm gonna go look up. I'm gonna go Google a lot of the things that you said. Because I was once into cameras and I had my own equipment for a while, and I'd always come to you whenever it came to like learning about something, or if something was a good enough quality. But like it's too much. I've seen what you do, and I'm like, oh no, I can't devote my time into doing this now, because what you do is an accumulation of years that you put in to get where you're at, and I'm like, oh no, I don't have the time, the mental capacity to go ahead and keep up with it. And oh boy, you do some beautiful shit. You do some amazing things. Like like from the comedy special that you shot for me that I've actually got to see, but never gotten. It is amazing, and I'm like, all right. And you do a whole lot. You do so much, but I didn't know you did. Like, until I get to talk to you now, like, I didn't know you did, like, all that. And, like, yeah, I'm the guy that they appointed. It's like, oh, you Mr. Man. Okay. Hell yeah. I know that's what I'm talking about. But
I'm not responsible for editorial on that comedy special. I delivered the footage, and that was all I was on the books for.
It was still beautifully shot.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Oh, man.
I have my footage from that.
I have never looked any better on any type of camera ever. I was like, this is what it's like. It gave me hopes and dreams, you know, like to eventually, like, oh, okay, eventually it'll be here, and when I get ready, I know who to call. So, but I'm not ready yet. But still, I know where to go. I know who to turn to. But so other people can turn to them. Where can they find you at?
So I am on Instagram, Hunter Thomas Photography. You can look up my IMDb and look at my previous work.
Boom, IMDb.
It is under Hunter Thomas. I am Hunter Thomas number 3 on there. I am on Facebook. You can look up my company, Concept 13 Studios, on Vimeo. We have a plethora of material on there. Can't talk about it yet because we're opening some new companies soon, but massive marketing opportunities coming soon.
Hell yeah, that's exciting. So, like, man, it's good to see. It's good to see people doing big things now, because you know you never know what some people are gonna go. And like I was saying, I've been knowing you for quite some time, and like just to see people grow in this city down here. I got the hell out of there, but you still stay in New Orleans. So to see people that are still thriving down here doing their thing, it makes me excited. You know, that like, oh, okay, good things are still happening. You know,
it's a great city.
It is.
I every time I leave, I miss the food.
Oh, yeah.
I did, like,
you can't not miss the food.
I flew out to Kentucky to go work on a horror movie, and in that week, I was so missing seasoned food. Me and one of the guys on my team, we went out to KFC. Because, you know, it was on the route and we were working 12 hours a day, so it's not like we could go anywhere else. And I was so unimpressed. I had it in my head, like, you know, we're in Kentucky. It's Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's going to be phenomenal.
I was going to make that joke, but I didn't want to be too ignorant.
It was so depressing. I enjoy New Orleans KFC better than Kentucky.
They got the same
KFC.
secret recipe, apparently. It's the same thing with Popeyes out in Texas. It is weird, too. I'm like, it's just something something don't taste right. It just, there's some seasoning, something is missing and it don't pop like it should.
And then right when I got back in town, I had like 2 days back before I flew out to Minnesota to go work on a music video. And then spent a week there and was experiencing Minnesotian people from Minnesota food.
Yeah.
And it was,
Minnesotans.
you know, it wasn't great.
Minnesota.
And I did a conference recently at the convention center downtown, and it was people from all over the world coming to talk and present, you know, whatever they did. And when we went to lunch on site, we were eating from the convention center food. I was shocked at how unseasoned the food was. I like, you know, I had gumbo and I had red beans and rice. And I had a po' boy over like 2 or 3 days, and everything was the most minimal level of seasoning. And at first I was wondering why, and I realized because you got people in from China, you got people in from India.
Who's making bland gumbo out there in Minnesota?
No, this was in town.
Oh, this was in town. Oh,
This was in town.
Oh.
They were making gumbo that
no.
was not like really well seasoned.
Oh no.
And I realized that it's because everyone else is not used to the level of seasoning that we have here, is everyone dialed it back. And I had that conversation with someone when I was in Kentucky. They, I don't remember her name. She was driving me around because we didn't have a car the first day. She told me that there was someone in town that had a Creole restaurant out here. I'm like, I'm going to have to try that. And she was telling me that they're not having great sales because everything's seasoned so well. And I'm like, well, that's, how it goes, is you're going to have to dial back the Cajun of it to fit the atmosphere of the people.
Yeah,
and that's where you start to lose the authenticity. And that's why when people try it there and then come here, they're like, oh, this is so spicy.
Yeah.
No, it's not spicy. It's seasoned, and it's seasoned properly. You're used to Kentucky version of Creole food.
A little bland, dog. Your taste buds ain't prepared for it yet. That's what's up. Well, man, until next time, this has been fun. This has been good. I'm glad I got to talk to you, dude. Just to let everybody know, man, you can go ahead and find me at tellmeajokeyo@gmail.com. Email me. They never do. They never email me. But if you do,
y'all should email him. He's cool.
Send me in your sweater guards or whatever. And man, this is Maniacal Menace Cosmic. Say the whole thing like a pimp that ain't slick back. This has been Tell Me a Joke, the guy down and chasing the dream. And until next time, jokers, keep dreaming. Yeah.